Hey, welcome to another episode. Oh man, end of the year, baby, coming up soon. Another episode of Conversations with Geoff. We've got a guest coming up shortly, man, that you do not want to miss. Particularly you fellas out there or women who are in the leadership space and really looking to find some insights that are going to be kind of unique to our guest in some ways, right? And so I can't wait to have you get more information on him because I talked to him before. I got a little bit of insight. It's a bad dude, man. So you don't want to miss the opportunity, right? So again, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Geoff, where our mission is to bring guests in like Chris that have a desire and compassion to leave empowering solutions through their life experiences, their education, their street life, whatever it may have been that takes them from here, some to the corner CEO suite, from here to businesses across the world, from all types of different results, because they never let the stinking thinking hold them back, right? I mean, oh boy, you guys know how I feel about the stinking thinking, right? Man, well, listen, make sure you subscribe, call your friends and your cousins and relatives to the round and get everybody ready, because he's going to be on here in just a minute. And I got to tell you something. Most leaders don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because no one ever, and check this out, no one ever taught them how to lead under pressure. Hey, I mean, that's just some of the things we're going to talk about. And that's the real crisis for organizations today is what happens when the crap hits the fan? What do we do? What happens when the world goes on pause? Like it did with COVID. What do we do? What happens when now AI is here and leaders are like, right? And the environment is the culture of the business is that question. So there's a whole lot of other things. So let me just get to a quick bio on our guest. As I mentioned, Chris Wong is an executive coach, licensed therapist, and founder of the Mission Impact Leadership Academy, a movement that's committed to ending what he calls accidental leadership. Pretty interesting, right? I mean, I can't wait to hear more about what that is. And Chris helps leaders navigate chaos without losing credibility, repairing dysfunctional cultures from the inside out, communicates simply, clearly, and powerfully in huge stake moments. Sound like somebody you want to have on your corner, baby, on your side. He leads with psychological awareness, not ego. And I got to tell you, the guy is humble, man. When he speaks, it's like, whoa, you better listen. He's got a lot to say. So, and why this matters to you, if you lead people, if you influence decisions, if you ever felt the weight of responsibility without a clear playbook, then this is definitely for you. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me bring to the coming up Conversations with Geoff, my new friend from way out in Boston, Mr. Chris Wong. Hey, what's happening, Chris?
Geoff, I gotta have you as my hype man for every appearance I ever make in the future.
Deal, man.
That was incredible. Thanks for having me here.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. And it wasn't easy getting here because of some of the things I didn't do, but man,
we're here. That's all
so
that matters.
Excited we're here right now. Right. So I mean, I told everybody a little bit about you. Is there anything that I may have left out that you want to share about before we get into it?
No, I think that was super comprehensive, more than I would ever say about myself. So I appreciate it.
That's the nice thing I get to do as part of this is when I meet people like you and I see this stuff, man, I recognize the work involved in being able to get where you are. So, hats off to you, brother, and keep doing what you're doing, man. You're meant to change a lot of lives. But I got to get to what I'm really interested in, and maybe we can back up from here. But tell me about Mission Impact and Leadership Academy. I mean, what is that all about?
Yeah, I think in almost every organization, especially if you're growing, there's a ongoing trend of people are really good at what they do, so you promote them into the next position. Especially if you're hurting for bodies, you have a lot of turnover, you need somebody to manage, and they're good at what they do. Let me put them in that position. But you don't have the infrastructure or the training or the resources to get them prepared for that, and they figure it out sometimes, maybe not, and they grow a little bit, and maybe they grow up to the next level, and suddenly now you have this whole series of leaders who have never learned how to lead. They just feels best to them. Might not be effective, might not be helpful, but they're there. And
Yeah.
so this leadership academy is, how do we help end that accidental leadership? How do we help leaders be leading with intention and with compassion, empathy, and whatever, all those nice buzzwords, but how do we get them to function so that everybody else functions well?
Yeah, you know, that's interesting too, because that happens so often. And then unfortunately, a lot of times that person that was super at job B, when they get promoted to A, don't have, you like you said, don't have the trainings, don't have the skills, don't have all the things that, you know, they could have benefited from. And now and then the manager that promotes them leaves. So now they're in that space on top of everything else. So, man, this is genius, because it's not only leadership, it's business owners too.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I have a great cook. You know, I have the best sloppy joes on the planet, and then I go into business and don't know how to run a business. So, I mean, I like that. So, tell us how it got you started in that, man. Were you part of that progression at one point in your life, and you said, "Oh, is that how it started, or what?"
I was a little more fortunate in the sense where I was, when I went into those positions, it was already like I had gone through some training, I had gone through some preparation. I had great mentors and great coaching along the way. And then they sent me to trainings along the way also that also built up my skills. And so when I got to my last internal position was director of leadership and organizational development, it just it allowed me to really dive deep into how do we help leaders grow and what are all the little aspects that, not everybody's good at all these different pieces of strategic thinking and communication and alignment and coaching.
Yeah.
I'm good at some of these things, but there's other areas that I'm not. So like I was able to round off all those things, doing
Right.
that kind of deep dive and supporting others doing that.
Yeah. And you mentioned some key things, man: mentorship and coaching.
Yeah.
Right, which is, I think, just a necessary piece to have all the time. And people ignore that and don't take advantage of that. So you meet people. So that person out there that doesn't have any coaching, and they're in this situation, and then what will you tell them right now? I mean, I'm that guy that, man, whew, I used to love this job. Hate it now.
Yeah. If you can't find, if you don't have a coach, I think it's like a therapist. I think most people should have either a therapist or a coach.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, not everybody has the funds for either of those things. I understand that. Get a mentor. Mentors are free, mostly free. Just find somebody who you trust, who does good work, who you know and like, and is willing to take you on, and just learn from them. Learn everything you can from them, and get other peers. Be willing to share with other people about what you're working on and what you're struggling with. Let other people give you their thoughts and feedback on what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's a good reminder to people not to be so prideful that they're afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's more help than you think if you ask for it, right? But you have to ask for it. So now you're doing this stuff, man, and what are you finding in the climate with leadership? What are some of the common things that like is becoming more and more apparent as we're shifting, to some things?
I think, especially with the rise of AI, I think the rise of authenticity is more important than before. Things you can get away with before, about kind of always putting a happy face on things or trying to think of optimism. Your authentic voice is so much more important than before, because people can use AI to spoof videos or spoof your language, or you can put press releases out just built by AI. So your authentic voice is more important. And also, these younger generations are much more attuned to not listening to that, right? Like, I think our generations, we knew leaders were sometimes lying to us, and we were like, whatever, we'll just talk behind their back.
Right.
But these younger generations are much more vocal about, like, no, I'm not going to take that. I don't want to hear you lie to me.
Yeah.
And so that, I think there's a level of authenticity and transparency that are much more important, that are much more vital in being human with one another, essentially.
Yeah. You said so many things in that sentence, man, about authenticity, and then ending it with being human. right?
So,
Because it's so true, and it used to be like, the CEOs or the leaderships would always speak to the people, so the people would all just have to, like you said, this is my boss, so I'm going to smile and I'm going to show up and all of that. But man, with the shift in these kids, so what are you telling these folks that are on this side here that don't understand what you mentioned, how the young folks are nowadays? How are you helping them make that transition? Because some people just don't care, or they don't think they have to change leadership wise. How do you?
Yeah, it's because I do communication work a lot, is I see it all different areas of the spectrum of like how people communicate, whether they're more authoritarian and more dictatorial about like just do this because I tell you to, versus they're too soft and they don't want to hold people accountable. At the end of the day, it's really about communication. Comes back to, you need to get your message across to the other person, and you are speaking from your own filters of how you view the world and your experiences and your culture and all that. And the person receiving the message is also receiving through their own filters of their own experiences, age, culture, all that stuff. And so the goal is not to be you are right all the time. The goal is to be successful in whatever you're doing. And so if that means you have to change the way you communicate it so that your message gets across, then that's the goal.
Yeah.
Right. Because otherwise we're just being focused on being right, which is not good, like community outcomes.
Yeah. I mean, if you always got to be right, then somebody's got to be wrong. And then that creates a whole nother level of culture,
Right.
And you're doing that. So what, I mean, man, I love what you're doing because it's so needed. What roadblocks, if any, did you run into when you were starting, when you were telling people, hey, you might not be the fully competent leader that you think you are, right?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
I think the biggest roadblock is just internally myself, my own mindset. The reason I got started working on my own is because there was a reorganization. I got laid off from my organization. And so looking back, I realized like at the time, my mindset was, I just got to push forward. I got to work. I got to figure out something. So I'm just going to dive into this with the support of my wife. I'll do this because it makes sense. And this is what I want to do. I wish I had taken more time to kind of just grieve and process it, like sit with it for a little bit, because I had a little bit of a severance. So it wasn't like all doom and gloom and like urgent. I had like a little bit of leeway. I would have taken like maybe just 2 weeks to just not pressure myself to move forward, just to say, let me just sit back and relax and think about this and just collect myself. Because I think early on, especially, I think everybody starting a business is the same way. Like there's all these like things you have to learn and get used to. Like you're like Sisyphus pushing a rock up the hill every day, and you're dealing with your own inner demons about like how you feel about sales and outreach and promoting yourself and getting comfortable with that in a way that's authentic to you. And there's all these like gurus everywhere that tell you this is the way to do it. Buy my course, I'll teach you how to do it. And so there's so much noise, and it's important. I think it was so I wish I'd done more time that reflection and taking it slowly and relaxing and just orienting myself to what are the next steps I need to do.
And how long have you been in business now?
2.5 years. Now we're 2.5 years.
Okay. So man, I will tell you that there's build it into your process. Build that reflection time in. Right. I know you were talking about like at home when you block off from such and such time to the time you put your kids to bed. What I've found, and I love your vulnerability about that, man, is we're building the business. We're always pushing, like you said, always push that thing up the hill. And the idea of stopping and reflecting, for me, now let's talk about my journey. I was like, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've it's only recently that I've taken more intention into like building in blocks into my schedule to reflect and not do stuff and plan and things like that. And every year, the beginning of the year goes really well for me because in December I usually take a lot of time off to rest and plan and do some strategic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I was like, why don't I do this all year round? More of this planning instead of like trying to push and like grind the wheel faster. And so now I've built it more into my schedule, and I've stopped doing work after like my kids go to bed like by 7:38.
Yeah.
I've stopped doing work after 8 o'clock, and I'm just as productive, if not more productive, as ever.
Yeah.
And I'm still making things move. I'm still pushing forward and making good movement forward on lots of different things. And so, I think as long as I keep that what you're saying, that time of reflection, and build that in on purpose.
Yeah.
I think that's so key.
Man, dude, I didn't learn that till later on, man. So I'm saying it as an OG, passing it on to you. Continue to do that, because that's when the refinement for me came in my planning, in the areas that needed to stop. Yeah. And what I really wanted to do and how I was able to do that. So thank you for letting me share that thought with you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm sharing for you, man. I mean, I think everybody wants to be in business, but most people shouldn't be in business for themselves. Because it's, when you go from W-2 employment to, hunting and eating on your own, you either eat or you don't, right? I mean, the simplicity of that life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more to it than that. But you're doing that. So now you're here, you're 2.5 years in, man. When you look back, is there anything that you would say, Geoff, I should have never done that? So maybe the people out there in the business space could like relate to, and then we'll talk more about your details in your business.
I wouldn't say shouldn't have. There's nothing I would have not done. I think it's more, I should have been more intentional doing that reflection at the beginning.
Yeah.
And just really refine, what am I doing? What service am I offering to the world? And maybe even done more research. Maybe that's one thing I would have done differently also, is done more research into the market of, this is a need in the market. This is something that there's some solutions for, but they're not great. And this is where my specialty lies. Because at first I was doing a little bit of strategic planning. I was doing a little bit of teamwork and stuff with people. But, it's only over the past year that I've refined, and I realized my strength is difficult conversations, conflicts, communication, leading through difficult experiences and times. And so why not lean into that? And especially with this Impact Leadership Academy, my experience is also around building good leadership development programs that have measurable impact. And so why didn't I focus on these like skills that I already have, instead of trying to do a little bit of everything here and there?
Yeah. Well, Brandon, I got to tell you, that's a bonus for you, right? If you already know that now in the stage of your business, because those things that you're talking about, difficult conversations and leadership in that space, is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the difficult conversation as a leader, right? I mean, there's so many. Tell me what's the ideal way of handling it? Starting, managing, and ending. So starting, managing, and ending a difficult conversation. Just pick one.
I always talk a lot about communication skills and how you're trying to make the other person feel comfortable in the conversation. I know it's already hard. Everybody hates hard conversations. Nobody loves them. But there's a way to start them so that you can try to reduce defensiveness as much as possible. So that's why I always teach starting by thanking the other person for being in the conversation, because you're trying to imply a choice. You're trying to show them that they have a choice, and that reduces that defensiveness. When you feel cornered, when you feel like you don't have any control, that's when your fight, flight, or freeze response really kicks up. You're like, now I'm stuck. Now I'm going to fight back or do whatever.
Yeah.
So thanking them for being there, being clear up front about, I want to talk about this and that, and using we language. I want to figure out how we solve this problem, not how you are the problem, but how do we solve the problem of this performance issue or this strategy issue, or this team issue, or whatever. It's us against the problem together. It's not me against you. It's how do
Yeah.
we solve this problem together, and let's work through that together. And I think that's always much more effective, and it takes more time. You're never going to solve it right away, but
Right.
it's
Right.
a great way to build that relationship. And that's the key, is you're building a deeper relationship if you handle it well.
Yeah. No. I mean, people just want to know that how much you care, right? They don't care about the other stuff until they can see that you're on their side as well. But I want to interrupt you. Hold that thought for a second. It's kind of fits. This thought just came to me. So what about that person, Chris, that has been with the company for a long time? They have these raving reviews, not all right. Right? They've had these things, and no one's really had difficult conversations with them.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that happens so much. That's why everybody's in this boat, right?
That's right.
Why haven't you talked to me about this already?
What do you mean? I just got a raise. I mean, because management, I love leadership and management, and I just speak freely about it. There's so many managers that don't know how to have difficult conversations.
That's right.
So many leaders that just don't, man. So, bro, you're in the right space. I mean, we need you. Yeah. I mean, it's just so needed. So anyway, that person, you have that person in front of you. You've done all you can. You got them all comfortable, but then they're still in that mindset. How do you proceed with that kind of mindset?
Yeah, that's where this will be a good example of that authenticity and transparency that we talked about. And I would, if you were my employee and that was the case, like you've been with me for many years, I've always given you good reviews, but I should have been giving you more hard feedback.
Right.
I would just say, Geoff, listen, I failed you. I'm really sorry. I messed up. I should have been giving you this hard feedback this whole time. And I didn't do you any favors by not telling you this and by just saying everything was good. I want to make sure we can turn the corner though and talk about this, because I want to make sure you perform at your best and you can get to that whatever level you need to get to.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. I actually felt like I was working for you for a minute there. I mean, so that stuff works, man. And it's so the leader that has a hard time, I like to call that humble pie, right? Having a bite of that humble pie in the process, both on the job and probably at home. We're telling that person, here's the way they can do that leader.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of other books and things that talk about that. Like there's Extreme Ownership. There's that one that Navy SEAL wrote about leadership and taking ownership and accountability. If you're not willing to do it, it's hard to teach you to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really mindset change. And it's that internal change that I do in therapy. It takes a while to get to that point of being willing to just look at it. And it's also maybe a mindset change of looking, as we were talking before, do I want to be right or do I want to be successful? Right. And if I want to be successful, then I'm just going to have to say it's my fault and look beyond, whatever happened before, it's in the past. I can't change the past. Whatever I did before, I can't change it. I can't change you in the past. I can only focus on what we're doing here in the moment together and moving forward, how we're going to move forward together. Yeah.
I like that, man. I mean, really, that's at the end of the day, that's the end game you want to be able to achieve. So let's talk a little bit more about the difficult conversations, because I know with AI, right, and jobs being shifted, and some people are just getting released without a conversation, and you might have the company that is caring and concerned about the staff and people and leaders, but you have to make some changes. How can you help that person?
Good. Well, question is, am I talking to the person whose job is at risk, or am I talking to the leader who's making the decisions?
To the leader, so that they can then talk to the person that's at risk. Yes.
Yeah. I would have a conversation. Well, I would actually be pushing back on the leader. Like, where do you want to go? Where's your company going that you think this is the right option? And where do you let's be thoughtful about this, right? Like, I think a lot of companies are, knee-jerk reaction. Like, let's invest a lot into AI because it can do a lot. And it can do a lot for sure. Like, I use AI a lot, every day in my work, so it's okay. But it can't replace a human being, right? It's just a brain. So you still need somebody to execute and do stuff. And is this a great option? Like, what are you trying to do and what are you trying to account for that you can't do now? And being thoughtful about that in the role. And then let's say they think about it and they're like, okay, I want to use it to enhance. We don't have to do a lot of layoffs, but we still have to do some because we're able to streamline some roles and simplify things. Then I would just coach them to have that conversation like that. Say, this is where we're going. This is why we're investing in it because we need to, because this is our budget. This is our operating revenue. These are the issues. If we don't make this change, we're going to be at risk. Like I would lay out financials. I don't know why more leaders don't lay out financials because, you know, I think it's important for people to just see the real picture. Like, hey, this is the real issue. If we don't do this, we're at risk of operating in the red next year.
Right.
And so we have to make some changes. And this is how we made these changes based on this role and whatever.
Yeah. And then, you know, from that perspective too, it really, if I'm listening and my boss is telling me about the business from that perspective, I'm going to be more interested in feeling a part of than not, you know, because, you know, I mean, because that really, they could take that whole conversation to a whole nother level, right? From building teamwork around that. So I just think that that's a perfect point to make, you know, open the doors, you know.
Yeah. I work with this one CEO that recently lost a grant from the government, and so he had to go through some layoffs, and they were in real trouble. Like he wasn't even sure if they were going to survive like the next like 4 months.
Yeah,
and he was like not sure what to tell people. So I told him the similar thing, just like coach, just give the basic financials. You don't need to go into detail because nobody will understand.
right.
But you can lay it out. Say this is the issue. This is what's going on. This is where we're pivoting and why I think we need to pivot. What are your ideas?
Yeah.
And the feedback was great from the team. They all were on board. Like, okay, we understand why this is happening. We understand what's going on, and they were able to pivot on some key projects that they had spent, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants for, but their own internal team solved the problem within days because they knew this is at risk. We need to do this. We need to fix this, and we have the resources to do it internally.
Yeah, and the support. You know, I mean, basically, you're asking for their help. You know, in that conversation, and you're pulling off the pride mask, and you're putting on the authentic mask, and that stuff. So I like that. So that kind of helps people navigate the chaos without losing credibility. I mean, because that was one of the points. You know, I mean, there's nothing worse than, you know, in the not-for-profit not getting grants, because that's some lifeblood, you know, a lot of times on how they survive.
Yeah, for sure.
And that stuff, man. So we got that. Now another thing is repairing dysfunctional cultures from the inside out with these difficult conversations. What would you speak to that?
I think it's just echoing everything we've been saying. I mean, it starts with, are you having the conversation, holding people accountable to standards? Do you have standards? And that sometimes I come into that too. Do you have processes and standards, or do you just have nice words on a wall saying these are your values, but nobody follows them?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you might say respect and integrity are your values, but you have somebody using the N-word or somebody kind of demeaning women, and you promote them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You could say respect is your value, but everybody knows what your values really are.
And they're not respect when that's happening. You know,
that's right.
Crazy, man. So when the businesses are operating, I mean, I could talk about some things forever, but we won't do that. So I mean, I get that, and I like that, and so now you're doing this stuff. What is there an industry that is more receptive than not in terms of their leadership and being open to what we're talking about than others, or is it pretty common across the industries?
It's pretty common. I think the motivation behind it is a little bit different depending on industry.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, I think for profit, they'll tend to be, we want to make sure we maximize our revenue and maximize the use of our resources. And then mission-driven organizations, even if and I say mission-driven broadly, even if they're like biotech or even if they are for-profit, mission-driven organizations will always be focused on how do we achieve this mission, whether it's serving the community or whether it's finding a cure for eye disease, whatever it might be. they're still driven in some way to achieve this mission. So that's why you want to do it. It's like the better we can have our team and our culture, the better we can be productive and get this product out or solve this problem or serve our people, whatever it might be. And that's why I focus when I focus, because it's the same across all industries.
Yeah.
People are going to be the same, right? People want to be seen, heard, understood.
Yeah.
Some people feel overworked. Some people don't feel respected. And that's going to be the same whether you're in GE or whether you're in a nonprofit serving the community. Like,
right.
It's all people are people.
People are people, and leaders, when you lack certain skills and experiences, you're dealing with, it doesn't matter where you are. And so now you're seeing that. Do you work with CEOs as well, or yeah? So what is your like level of engagement generally in leadership?
I generally work with director level VPs, CEOs, or executive directors if it's a nonprofit.
Okay. So has there been a common thread yet that you can share or feel comfortable sharing around the successful CEO and the one that's really needs you? I mean, they both need you, but one of them really needs you because they've got not only this communication going on, but they got other things going on. What can you say?
Yeah, I would say communication is always a big one. Another big one I see is the ability to delegate and empower their team and let their team do stuff. I think at any level, any leader that's still like, I need to hold on to doing all this stuff because that's where I feel most comfortable. That tends to be a bottleneck a lot because, I think leadership at that level is you're now overseeing things that you have no direct functional experience with.
Yeah.
And so like, how can you make decisions on something that you don't know anything about the details of? And so instead of taking the time to learn or trusting the people, empowering the people below you to make decisions, a lot of leaders will then just say, let me just hyper focus on the tasks I do know how to do and try to control things as much as possible in my grasp. And then they become that bottleneck, or they become defensive over not knowing what's going on in this function that they oversee. When instead they should be letting people take control of the things they're good at, right? You have all these people who are experts in that area.
Yeah.
Give them the coaching on how to build better, give them the training and resources to get better at their job. But your job is not to be the bottleneck. It's supposed to, you're there to empower other people and make things flow faster.
Yeah. So I'm thinking as I'm listening to you, it's probably a product of what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. They were at one point in their careers superstars, and then the next level superstars. But that one component we're talking about now, it's going to catch up with them eventually.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's going, and that's why I kind of talked about they failed not because they failed because no one ever taught them how to lead under pressure. At some point, like that example you just gave, the pressure is going to be like,
that's right. Especially because if you're new, and everybody's gonna be dubious of you, right? Like you got somebody that went for that, tried to go for that position, didn't get it, so they're gonna be coming in and be like, "Well, prove me wrong that you're better than me. Go ahead."
Oh man, I love this. It's just, my wife, as you're talking about that, she's been that kind of leader that has always made sure to delegate and develop people. Because I think you said direct functional experience. If you don't have it, you better have something else. You better be able to communicate. You better be able to create culture, curate a support team around you in order to make it, or it's just so.
Yeah.
Hey, well, man, look, I'm looking at the clock, and I already took you past the time I thought you would be here. So, is there? I don't want. Can you? I want, before we leave, is there anything that you feel like we need to tie up in our conversation so people listening can really go back and listen to this again? Because you dropped some really powerful things in there, man. It's simple. What I love about it is really kind of common sense, but common sense ain't that common anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I think maybe it boils all down to courage.
Hmm.
You just got to be brave enough to embrace that you don't know things. You got to be brave enough to lean into the hard conversations and accept that you're going to have to and say sorry at times. So I think a lot of it comes down to bravery and courage. Like, are you brave enough to do the things that are really hard? And
Yeah.
that's why they're under the category of courage and bravery, right? And so I think that's such a key thing to be authentic and human, is to be brave, even if you feel that fear or that anxiety, is to step into it anyway.
Yeah. I love that, man, because it's kind of like at the end of the day, if you do it correctly and you do it with, empathy and authenticity, you're doing that person a favor. At the end of the day, you're really helping them out. As hard as it might be to hear that, that's what I told myself. Because when I was in corporate, that was my job. How do I get promoted? By going and fixing bad spaces. But I always wanted, I had good mentorship, and they talked a lot about make sure that you're honest, make sure that you give them the examples that are necessary so that they can be better than on the next job. Oh, by the way, you're not going to like what they call you sometimes. You're not going to like how they feel sometimes. Yeah. But I love it. You said be courageous and be brave, man. That's awesome. So, well, how do people get a hold of you that in terms of your academy before we get out of here? Is that something you're promoting now currently? Or?
Yeah, I'm starting to promote it. I think in the new year is when I'm going to really have a website and everything's going to be great. But for right now, if anybody's interested in just following me and just learning more, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Chris Wong, LMHC. That's the best way. That's where I'm most active. And you can just also find me on my website, myleadershippotential.com, and you'll see all the stuff I'm working on there. And I think that's the best place for now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And in 2026, can you share any secrets you got for us, man? Or we just have to wait and see when that comes in terms of your business, what you're thinking about?
Yeah. I think I'm planning on winning the lottery so that I can just be a billionaire the easy way. And that's my big goal for 2026. Just win the lottery.
Hey, man. Well, don't forget me over here, bro. Whatever consideration you want to send my way, we'd appreciate.
Yeah. No, I'll need a hype man all the time, everywhere I go.
You make it easy, bro. You show up and you do what you're supposed to. So it's a pleasure to be able to chat with you, man. And hopefully this conversation has been helpful for you as well. I know it's been a lot of great stuff dropped in the short period of time. And so I encourage people to reach out to Chris and all that. So Chris, man, I want to thank you again for spending some time with me this afternoon or this morning, wherever you may be in the world. And we wish you nothing but continued success in your business growth, brother.
You the man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, man. We'll see you in 2026. Take care. Hey, well, listen, guys, as I was telling you before, when you hear this recording, go back and listen to it if you're not here live, man, and take some good notes and really reach out. I mean, he talked a lot about authenticity. He talked a lot about courage. He talked a lot about bravery and a need, right? So if you're hearing this and you might be that person we've talked about that's in a role that you're like, you feel like you're lost, right? You're not sure if you're making the right decisions and you don't know if you're going to get that kind of support from the people that you're working with, then, reach out to Chris, right? Because I'm going to tell you something. These conversations are going to continue. The difficult conversations in your roles are going to continue. These people are always going to be people. So you're going to need to have the skill sets in order to manage and lead in chaos and lead through dysfunction, and also be willing to look at yourself. And he can do a lot of things like that. So anyway, we wrap this thing up today. I want to say thank you again to our guest and encourage everybody to share, like, subscribe, and comment on this. And we want to thank everyone for getting with us all year long. We've got another episode here next week, and then I think we're done for the year 2025. So please reach out to Chris if you have any questions. If you can't get a hold of him, come back to me. I think what he's talked about today is a tremendous opportunity for folks out there that are either in small business or in big corporate roles doing some things that you need some help. It's going to even get crazier, baby, because AI is only going to heighten the excitement, right? And we got some other things happening in business culture that you're going to need to be able to make some crucial conversations and be successful at it. So anyway, thank you all for having a fantastic time with us today. Conversations with Geoff. Make sure you remember this when you look in the mirror, baby. Make sure that person that's looking back at you is courageous and brave. And if it's not, then reach out to my friend Chris. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next Conversations with Geoff. And remember, your comeback starts now. Take care, baby.